Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's De-JOE-tional. So, I've been trying to come up with a good title for this week's De-JOE-tional, and I'm having a hard time because we're going to have kind of a come to Jesus De-JOE-tional this week. So, I was going to call it Come to Jesus, or Stepping on Toes, or Round Pegs in Square Boxes. Whatever you want to call it, it's time for us to start looking at ways we can do things differently. So, as I've told you, the last couple of weeks, I took part in a Bible or book study on Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans. And this book spoke to me in many, many ways. And as I showed you before, I have a lot of stuff highlighted in here. And the book covers Rachel's roller coaster relationship with her faith, with her church, with denominations, etc. And somehow finding the right fit for her. So, not that there was anything wrong with any of it, don't get me wrong, but finding her place in it and in the future. And then during this discussion, Becky Long was conducting that. Her mom was part of that book study, and her mom said she was also part of this book study with another group called If God is Love, Don't Be a Jerk. It's finding a faith that makes us better humans. And so far, I've read the introduction and the first chapter, and I have highlighted more than is not highlighted. I texted Pastor Jay yesterday afternoon, and I said this book is screaming at me right now. And this is where the round peg fitting in the square hole analogy works best. We have some opportunities for growth, and we need to start taking advantage of them. Back when we started the Extreme Church Makeover Project, I jokingly refer to our space as the big gray box. And it is. I mean, all worship spaces are big boxes to an extent. They're all rectangular or square. Some are decorated differently, of course, but they're still boxes. And yet we have a generation of people who are square pegs coming up. And that square box, that Sunday morning 1 hour worship is not working for them. We've seen a decline in church membership worldwide. We've definitely seen it here in the United States and in our congregation. And it really has hit home during COVID. When COVID shut everybody down for a while, we all just couldn't wait to get back to normal, get back to the way things used to be. But that wasn't always going to be a good idea, because the way things used to be may not have been the best way things should have been. It's just the way they were. And we're running into that. While people are coming back, we're still not hitting the people that we need to hit. Having a hard time putting it in the right words. Let me put it this way. There's in this first chapter that I read yesterday, and I told Susan yesterday, there's like 10 pages or so in this first chapter, and at least twice while I was reading it, I had to stop and like, holy cow, that is spot on. And I carry a highlighter, like I said, when I'm reading it. He talked about the old gospel song, give me that old time religion, it's good enough for me. This book, by the way, was published last year by a 51-year-old pastor. So it's not just some guy, young guy, millennial that we all associate with change and all that. It's somebody my age. Anyway, give me that old time religion, it's good enough for me. And for generations, it has been good enough for a majority of the people. But now our world has changed so much because of technology, because of COVID, because of increasing schedule conflicts. As I mentioned before, Sundays are no longer sacred in our country. There's family reunions, of course. There's soccer, baseball, theater, campouts, you name it, family time. Parents are working so hard during the week that they need that time together for family on weekends. So there's all kinds of things. Anyway, old time religion is not good enough for a lot of people anymore, where it used to be. So we have to figure out ways to bring faith, bring Christ to them. Again, bring people to Christ and Christ to people, right? Keep saying it, bringing people to Christ and Christ to people. If we expect everybody to come between 8 and noon on Sunday, we're going to lose. We are losing. Churches are losing. We've got to open more doors for them. I'm going to give you just a few quick numbers. For those of you that are attending worship in person, we're seeing decent numbers at the second service. We're around 60 or so, I think. I don't know. Barb can tell you, and Pastor Jay can tell you the exact numbers, but we're a decent amount. We're very pleased with that number. 8:30, not so much. Now, a year ago, when we put the survey out and asked about, you remember the question about combining and having one worship service on Sunday instead of two? Overwhelmingly, the church voted to keep 2 worship services. And most of the people that voted, I know, were the 8:30ers. They liked that early time. They'd like to go beginning of the day and they have the rest of the day do stuff. We're having about 10 people at 8:30 worship. Now, I've only been there the last 2 Sundays in person. We had 9 this past week, 10 the week before, and I was told that's pretty much the same. In that number, though, I'm not counting Pastor Jay, me, Mike back on the board, Rod Thornton, who's being our usher and taking care of in-house things. I'm not counting those people. I'm counting people in the chairs worshiping. 10. About 10. Let me give you some numbers online. The online worshiping experience that we're having. I just got the phone with Pastor Jay this morning, so I wasn't just guessing at some of these. So the Facebook clicks for Sunday morning worship. Live, we're seeing 20-ish people watching live, and then we're getting several more people during the week. So in the data here, these are people that watched at least 1 minute of worship. So if they're going to watch a minute, they're going to hang on. 29, 28, 39, 40. Decent numbers, really good numbers. For Pastor Jay's Coffee, Christ, and Conversation on Thursday morning at 7 a.m., by the way, 7 a.m., 18, 10, 16, 22. Things 15 minutes long, and people are still there. We're only getting 9 or 7, 8, 9 people at 7 o'clock, but more people are going back and watch. That's the thing about technology that we're forgetting about a lot of times, is people can go watch whenever they want, whenever it's convenient. They can comment on Facebook. They can do it at their leisure. Some numbers I want to share. De-JOE-tional. The numbers for this video here, before the first of the year, I was getting somewhere around 20 views each week. Not a big deal, decent number. After the first of the year, I decided to also share it not only on the church Facebook page, but on my personal Facebook page. And I had 77 and 82 views in the first 2 weeks from people doing that. I have 38, 48, got a couple in the mid-20s. And then Susan joined me a couple weeks ago. We hit 113 views on De-JOE-tional, and then 50 so far for this past week. So People are connecting online. As much as we hate it, as much as we don't like the impersonal nature of online Bible study, worship, meetings, whatever, people are engaging in online activity with regard to the church. So we're not going to abandon Sunday morning worship. Just don't think about that. That's never going to happen. We love Sunday morning worship. If we were going to abandon it, we wouldn't be spending all this time and resources on the Extreme Church Makeover doing some upgrades to the space, right? So we're never going to abandon it. But we got to figure out new ways. I was just on a webinar, speaking of technology, a webinar on hybrid evangelism, new reality for congregations. It was put on by the Lewis Center for Church Leadership and shared by the Church Conference on the Church Conference Facebook page. Again, technology at work. And I sat on there for about 45 minutes and then got off so I could do this real quick. And one of the things that they pointed out early, they asked what kind of digital social media platforms you use. And 95% of the people, and these are people all over the country, by the way, on this webinar, commented 95% of the people use Facebook. We're in one of those 95%. But they brought up the point that if we limit the platforms, we limit the audience. So we can tie that into online versus in person. If we limit ourselves to Sunday morning, we're going to limit the audience that we reach. As hard as it is to embrace some of the technology, I get it, we're going to have to do it. Or we're going to have to find other ways to reach. It doesn't have to be technology, but we have to find other ways to reach people, to bring Christ to people other than Sunday morning. So those are some things to think about this week. I didn't think you wanted to talk about love again. We talked about love at GPS Sunday. I thought we would talk about this instead because, like I said, this book screamed at me yesterday and I felt compelled to share. So that's what you have to think about this week. How can not only we bring people to Christ, but how can we bring Christ to people? Let's think about it. Blessings, Godfrey First. That's the end of my De-JOE-tional for this week.